If there's one thing the Jurassic period is known for, it's its diverse collection of giant predatory dinosaurs, from the ferocious Allosaurus to the horned Ceratosaurus. However, even amongst these giants, not everyone is a superstar. In fact, some are so mysterious and overlooked that they're often left in the shadows of others. This couldn't be truer for one of the most overlooked predators of the Jurassic. With considerably indistinctive, moderately raised spines running down its back. One of the Jurassic's most enigmatic meat-eaters discovered yet, called Metriacanthosaurus. Metriacanthosaurus was a moderately sized carnivorous dinosaur hailing from late Jurassic Europe, having lived 160 million years ago in what is now Dorset. With length estimates of 26 feet or 8 meters, it was fairly average-sized for a carnosaur, or the group of dinosaurs much closer related to Allosaurus than they are to birds, and probably looked fairly Allosaur-like in life. At least, that's the pattern most reconstructions follow. You see, on the surface, it looks like a fairly unremarkable dinosaur, and that's because we really don't have much of it. Originally discovered in 1923, this dinosaur was recovered from a single vertebrae, a leg bone, and part of a hip, thought to have belonged to the more famous Megalosaurus, and was originally placed as such, with the remains being assigned as Megalosaurus parkeri. However, this was only the beginning of the rabbit hole. As decades passed, the limited remains of this animal would receive several revisions and reanalyses, being reassigned to Ultispinax due to its vertebral spines being slightly above average in height. However, in 1964, it was examined again and lacked the distinctive characteristics of Ultispinax, including the structure and height of the dorsal spines. In fact, they were notably too short for Ultispinax. After this examination, this theropod would be found to be a distinct species of large meat-eating dinosaur, and gained the moniker Metriacanthosaurus, or the moderately spined reptile. Metriacanthosaurus' name isn't the only taxonomic issues caused by its limited remains. Due to Metriacanthosaurus having a very fragmentary original specimen, or holotype, it had proven difficult to classify where it sat on the theropod family tree for decades, until the amazing discoveries of the 1970s and 80s. During this time, paleontological discoveries were ripe in the areas of China and Mongolia, and from these discoveries pulled from the sediments of Asia, revealed that Metriacanthosaurus was no longer alone. In the late 20th century, two fairly unique theropods were recovered from the Sichuan province of China, Sinraptor and Yangchuanosaurus, two theropods that, while on a surface level similar to others, were quite unique in their own right, from the short, boxy skulls to the noticeably similar hips and vertebrae, ones that bore a striking resemblance to those of Metriacanthosaurus. And by the late 80s, a new family of carnosaurs was born, called Metriacanthosauridae, with Metriacanthosaurus as the family's namesake. Metriacanthosaurids were a fairly exotic group of theropods, with short muzzles and tall, flat skulls. However, their looks aren't the only things that make these animals special. In fact, they've had their own significant contributions to paleontology. Metriacanthosaurs were some of the earliest known giant theropods to radiate during the Jurassic, spreading across Asia to Europe during the Middle and Late Jurassic, with some of their largest members growing to gigantic proportions, like Yangchuanosaurus, which grew to nearly 35 feet, nearly 11 meters long. These were apex predators, with a particular taste for sauropod, or long-necked dinosaur, indicated by tooth marks left by Metriacanthosaurs on sauropod bones discovered in the Zhejiang province of China. Metriacanthosaurus itself was the largest predator of its domain, living in what was once a coastal, if not outright tropical environment, rivaled only by the island-going megalosaur Eustreptospondylus. However, Metriacanthosaurus as predators aren't the only thing we know about them. In fact, we have evidence for their social dynamics. Sinraptor in particular has been a big contributor in this factor, with a study in 2001 revealing that Sinraptor was one of the many theropods that practiced the intraspecific behavior of snout biting, a behavior thought used by carnivorous dinosaurs to settle disputes by biting each other's snouts. One that was widespread across different families of carnivorous dinosaur. Given how widespread this behavior was, it's likely that Metriacanthosaurus practiced the same behavior as its cousin, and would have proven crucial for social interaction, providing a non-lethal method to settle disputes. Likely as a last resort, as most carnivores like to avoid injury as much as possible. After all, you can't hunt if you're crippled. However, Metriacanthosaurus would meet its end by the end of the Jurassic, along with much of the other Metriacanthosaurs. That being said, this line of theropods would manage to persist in the early Cretaceous, with animals like Siamotyrannus, albeit much rarer than they were in the Jurassic. And as time would turn Metriacanthosaurus into a memory, it was an animal that would fade into obscurity even in the hands of paleontologists millions of years later. While Metriacanthosaurus may have seemed doomed to boredom, it actually proven to have been quite the niche celebrity of paleoart, thanks to the works of Gregory S. Paul, who frequently illustrated the animal and featured it in academic works like Predatory Dinosaurs of the World, representing Metriacanthosaurus shangyuensis, which is really just Yangchuanosaurus. What's particularly special about this book is that it served as crucial inspiration for Jurassic Park's dinosaurs, helping to shape the dinosaurs as much more athletic, intelligent, and far more majestic and terrifying than ever before. Naturally, Metriacanthosaurus was bound to be pulled over to the big screen. Somewhat. While it's never made a formal appearance in the films, its name appears on a DNA vial in the first film, as a nod to Predatory Dinosaurs of the World. This small appearance has cemented Metriacanthosaurus as one of, if not the fanbase's most anticipated dinosaur to appear in a movie, and has appeared in several forms of media since, be it Jurassic Park media or other forms of dinosaur media as a whole. In fact, it almost came back around when it nearly nailed a spot on the roster of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Unfortunately, it was cut from the film due to being too similar to Allosaurus. While Metriacanthosaurus doesn't have much in the way of discovery as its relatives, and not exactly the most exotic-looking dinosaur, it managed to find its own unique place in history, both in paleontology and pop culture. Now, if only we could find a few more bones.